Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. My name is Amber Larkins, published photographer, storytelling expert, visual artist, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach. This podcast was born from one question: how do I get inspiring stories of triumph out to the people who need to hear them the most? Come with me, enter my world, where lives are getting changed, heroes are getting developed, and greatness is being achieved. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber Larkin, your host, and today I have with me Miss Arlene Cohen Miller. Now, she is the CEO of Jewel Consultancy, a work-life balance and harmony coach who brings a wealth of training and experience to help women compassionately and wholeheartedly lead themselves and create the life that they desire. Arlene is a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation, an AV-rated Colorado attorney, and a certified meditation facilitator with a diploma in transformational holistic counseling from Australia. So you have a lot of credentials, Miss Arlene, but thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I've been a little bit of a perpetual student. I really do love learning and growing, and so yeah, there's been a lot there. But I'm really grateful for all those different classes and courses that I've gone through because they've got me to where I am today.
And you have a list there of things. So I know that you've probably experienced what it is to be a woman and the day-to-day things that is pushed on us as women and as men too, but it's a little bit different for women than it is for men. And I have a big heart for women as well. And it's good to see other women, especially that it has the list of credentials that you have, that's reaching back and helping women out of being stuck, out of that rut of getting caught up in the motions of things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your practice and what you do with your coaching?
Well, I guess I'll just step back for a minute. When I was 15, I decided I was going to be an attorney. And the first 12 years, I was a family law attorney. So I experienced firsthand, when I was very young, I started practicing law at 25 when I opened my own law firm as a solo. When I was 29, immediately found out I was pregnant. So I have been a working mother, married, divorced, single, all different combinations from the very beginning. And yeah, so the first 12 years was family law. That's divorce, dissolving your marriage, child custody, visitation. I was even appointed by the court to be a guardian ad litem representing the children, which was really traumatic for me at a young age because I came from a pretty middle class suburban family. And then after that, I became more of a business lawyer, helping businesses to collect their debts. So, but still working with people. And along the way, like in the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years of practicing law, I expanded out. I got that diploma in coaching and mentoring and diploma in transformational holistic counseling and became a certified meditation facilitator. At the time, I wasn't going to leave the practice of law. I just felt I need to be a better communicator. I need to be a better listener. And it just felt like I really learned from that process. I wasn't a good listener. I was always thinking about what I was going to say, which is how they train you as an attorney to win instead of really hearing what other people have to share. And yeah, I just got tired of all that and needed a change. And we sold the business and opened up a new business, Jewel Consultancy, so that I could work with women more on a full-time basis as a coach. I also work with men and women as a transformational counselor, as a transformation mentor, not a counselor. Because I don't have anything against men. I just have more of a passion for helping women with coaching because I went through all of that. There were no work-life balance and harmony coaches. There were no mentors who could help me through anything. And when I got pregnant, my husband and my then husband, we moved from Kentucky up to Ohio. So all my family was a 6 hour drive away. All of his family was a 6 hour drive away. We hadn't been there long, so I didn't have the friend and the business base that I had from going to law school in Kentucky. That was all gone. So I had to like build my tribe to help me be a working mom from the ground up. And so I really feel a deep, empathetic, and compassionate connection with women, who are especially working mothers or have big jobs and a spouse or whatever they're doing. It feels like a lot. And in today's age, unlike my mother, who chose to stay at home. You know, her parents were very working class, kind of poor, and she was like, "Well, I've made it. I can stay at home and take care of my kids." Most people don't have that choice anymore. It's too expensive. And so I guess that's why I do what I do. And it's like why I'm a member of the Colorado Women's Bar Association. I'm the only grandma there, but I really love being there and being a support system. Really just amazing, amazing women who are accomplishing so much, but really have a lot of um, stuff going on inside of them, you know, because there's so much to do. Plus, there's their family, plus, there's their partner, or they're divorced, or whatever's going on for them. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be able to give back in a way that that wasn't there for me when I was younger.
Mhm. And I see this, it resonates with a lot of people that do what they do, working with people, helping them, where it seems like they've experienced it through their own personal life, and now they're going back and helping other people, providing those places for people that they didn't have. So I think
Yeah,
such a beautiful story that you have there, and I,
thank you.
I'm really grateful for people like you that are reaching back and helping women. And the culture has changed. It's way different than the culture that my mom was in, or my grandmother was in, for sure. And we see this with women trying to juggle it all. And I can say, for even for myself, I fall into that trap many times where I'm trying to juggle everything, and you're running on a tight schedule where everything has to get done, and sometimes it can feel super overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, do you have an age group of the women that you work with, or is it just kind of all across the board?
I would say that they're from their, you know, early 30s to 50s.
Mhm.
That tends to be, you know, the age group because a lot of women are having kids later, so their kids might be teenagers when they're in their, you know, late 40s, early 50s, and they might be having their kids later. I mean, I didn't have my son. I didn't get pregnant till I was 29 and didn't give birth till I was 30.
Mhm.
So I'm sort of part of that generation. And yeah, so there is that age gap. And even if their kids are like at university or whatever, from my experience personally as a mother, it doesn't end. You know, there's still that ties, there's still things going on. It's different. And so they still have some of that stuff going on. Maybe it's more financial, you know, providing some of the monetary backup so the kids don't have to have huge student loans, you know, to go through university. So yeah,
Do
it's that sort of age group.
do you see a difference when you work with someone, say, in their 30s versus someone in their early 50s, how they're, because we walk through that stage of life, or different stages of life, we experience life a little bit differently. And I'm wondering, do you see a difference in working with maybe the younger moms and the younger women that have all of these things on their plate versus how the older women handle?
Well, if I could generalize it a little bit, I think they've kind of gone through what I've gone through. And you go through like, you know, you're depleted. You're giving all your love and care to everybody else but yourself, and somewhere along the way you figure out that that's not going to work. I have to give that love and care to myself, or I'm going to have a totally empty cup and end up on the floor. And so they do. The older women do have more wisdom, but they're still experiencing, if I wouldn't be coming to me, you know, a lot of overwhelm and stress. I think that we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves as women, a lot of expectations, which are judgments. So it's oftentimes not as intense, but sometimes it is. It really depends on, you know, if they've stepped into like leadership roles in organizations, how their kids are going as they're teenagers, or maybe they're in college now. You know, that's going to impact them a lot, whether they're divorced, whether they're single, you know, whether they have any support system in place for them at all. And you really find things across the board. Although I do, as a general rule, find that women in their 50s have let some stuff go and are not in quite as much overwhelm. But there's still that thing within women that we can just be pushed over the edge, and we need to have those skills and tools in place to take care of ourselves ongoingly so that we don't allow ourselves to get to that point.
And so, with what you do, you actually help provide these skills and these tools to help people overcome these feelings of overwhelm or anxiety, um, and then be more productive in their day to day life. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm mentoring them, yes. If I'm coaching them, I know that they have the answers inside of them, and it's really what they want. Because oftentimes, I guess what we do as coaches, or what I do, is I hold this huge space of non-judgment and what I call unconditional love. The coaching community calls it unconditional positive regard. And most women, including myself, until I became a coach, we really weren't given any place where someone would listen to us without thinking about how they were going to fix us or help us. And that's really not helpful for most of us. I know that as I would share things with my partner or with my friends, I didn't want someone to fix me. I just wanted someone to, gosh darn, listen to me and sort of go, oh, wow. And allow me to have my own experience. And as coaches, we do that. And I find that if we hold that really nice, big, loving, judgment free space and ask powerful questions and share what we're noticing about the person, their body language, what they're saying, words that they're using a lot, and really dive into even metaphors or things that they're using to share their story. That they're going to have their own insights. They're going to have their own knowing come up about what to do from here. And as a coach, I can guide them to where to from here with that. I find that if it comes from inside of my clients as a coach, it's going to be much more powerful. There's going to be much more buy-in to actually take some self-care, self-love, changing my life a little bit steps to have a different experience.
So you're able to kind of pull that out of somebody.
Well, there has to be a co-creation. It's like we step in together, and there has to be that willingness. But most people that come to me, they want to have that experience. They're excited to have that experience. I really don't often have people that are just like a really shut down and come to me with something, but it's really not the issue, and they really don't want to take any steps to change. And
Yeah.
I cannot make anybody change. It really has to be coming together and partnering.
Mhm. Well, and I think when someone gets to the place in their life where they reach out to a coach, whether that be a business coach, a fitness coach, a life coach, whatever kind of coach, they are they've had enough. They're like stuck in not being able to achieve that goal, that final push
Right.
to get over the heel, and so they probably are really ready. And I know even in myself, I can speak to this where there's been certain things inside of my life that you feel stuck, certain areas. And then it's like, if I just had somebody that could tell me what to do, I'm open to do whatever. I just need someone to tell me what
Yeah.
to do because what I'm
Right.
doing isn't working. And so
Right.
I'm of the belief that people need coaches in all areas, at least at some point in their life. Like maybe you don't need
Right.
a coach for the long haul forever, but you do need a coach to kind of get you over to make those excels in life.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to see now, just from doing the podcast and just being in culture, you see that coaching has taken on a real role of, it's like people see the value in needing someone to help them push them a little further along. I've definitely
Yeah.
seen it. It's been instrumental in my own personal life. But you mentioned that you have these tools and resources and things that you work with people. Can you share just a little bit about
Sure.
maybe your process or some of the different
Well, I
resources
can
that you
share some of
use?
the tools that your audience could use right now. And the first thing is when we get really stressed out. I know this is all simple and we probably know it, but the thing is that we're not applying it in our lives. And what happens is that we're just in fight or flight mode. So we're just breathing up here. We're even holding our breath in between things. So we just have to stop, really notice, how am I breathing? And one very simple breathing technique is just breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, having the out breath longer than the in breath. And the reason I love it is that you don't have to stop what you're doing. You can be listening, you can be making your kids breakfast, you can be driving somewhere, you can be listening to someone talk. But as long as you're breathing in through the nose, you're breathing out through the nose, the out breath is longer. It takes you into this physiological thing where your body goes out of fight or flight into rest and relax mode. And sometimes it takes, 5 or 10 minutes to get there. Super, super easy. Another easy thing that we can do is that when we're feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, we're not fully present here now. It's like The visual I give people is like, here's your physical body, your emotional body's way over there, your mental body's way over there. No wonder you feel scattered. So I just have them visualize and pretend that they're a tree. I love nature, just like you're standing outside. There's this column of light coming through you. It goes out your feet. It's huge roots of light, and it anchors into the heart of the planet. So like your heart is connected to the heart of the planet, and you really feel like the earth is pulling down those roots into the heart of the planet. And so when we have that visceral feeling, and we're like more like we really feel that treeness, we become more fully present, because where we go into anxiety and stress is that we're worrying about the future. We get all anxious, or we're remorseful about the past. We're beating ourselves up about we did this or that yesterday or last week or 5 years ago or whatever. And it takes us out of being fully present in the moment, where we can actually bring ourselves to that calm and centered and peaceful state. So those are like two really, really simple things that we can do when we're beginning to feel stressed.
That I've seen that work in my own life as well. I didn't always believe in meditation. I was of the belief that it didn't really work, until I went through a divorce. And then it was like, I started I started getting really bad neck pain, and I noticed I think I had someone point it out to me that I was always like had my shoulders up. The tension and the stress from that, and just the transformation of the such a transformational experience going through that, that I started doing exactly what you're saying as far as breathing. I would do it in the car. Every time I'd feel my shoulders kind of like raising up, I would try to pull my shoulders down as far as I could and breathe. And it changes your physiology. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
ever listened to Tony Robbins, but he talks about this too, like changing your physiology by movement and by breathing. And
right.
when you see it work, you're like, oh no, this works. And
It does.
even the visualization, I think, is so important. And I think that people dismiss how powerful our minds really are to control our bodies, to control our thoughts, to
Right.
control so many things in our lives. So I think it's wonderful that that's a perfect starting point that even people can do. I don't know if you noticed, but you're talking about breathing, and then I start breathing. I did it as you were
Oh, I
telling it.
remember breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with visualization, I agree with you 100%, because, of course, what we focus on is what we get more of in our lives. So if we're focusing on all the mistakes we've made, and beating ourselves up for it, one thing that we can do, okay, what tell people, you have a choice. A mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. Not, it doesn't have to be an opportunity to beat yourself up. So if this was an opportunity to learn and go, and something similar was happening to you in the future, how would you do things differently? What would that look like? What would that feel like? How would that be for you? And it might be an interaction with your kids. It might be an interaction with work, and just have them have you visualize it and feel it as much as possible. So when your mind, you're like I call it the negative ego, or I don't know, that's what I call it, the negative ego, because you need an ego to keep yourself from putting your hand on the stove and burning yourself, or walking out in traffic. But this inner critic, negative ego, likes to remind you of all these things to bring us down. So when we're going to that place, it's like, no, okay, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn and grow. How can I visualize? How can I feel into this situation in the future that's going to come up again, because I haven't learned the lesson? I keep on beating myself up. And how's it going to look? How's it going to feel? How am I going to be different on the other side of that? And that's, like you said, that visualization is a very, very powerful tool.
And also, what you're saying here, too, or what it makes me think of, is journaling. I'm trying to really tap into more journaling. And I think so many times with journaling specifically, people will say, oh, you should journal. And I'm an overthinker. So I'm like, what does that mean? I write down my day, I write down, but then you start to realize journaling doesn't have, there doesn't have to be confinements within journaling. Like you can journal anything, whatever you're thinking. You can journal what's happened that day. You can journal how you would handle things, how you handled things, and how you could handle things differently. Um, and I do think there's a lot of value that goes into, especially being able to look at those like black and white instances. So I handled things this way. How can I handle things differently the next time? there's something powerful that happens. I don't know if it's mind body connection or what, but when we write it down, there's something powerful that happens there. It's way different even than typing in on
Hmm.
your computer, right?
Yeah,
Do
it
you
is.
find that when
Oh yeah, and another great thing we can do with that that I find that women are need some help in like taking an upgrade with it is that I don't know, for some reason, we think that in order to acknowledge ourselves, we have to complete a big goal. We have to do something amazing. And if we want to have that foundation of self love and self care and that positivity, it's, with our journaling at night before we go to bed or just sometime during the day, just acknowledge, okay, I didn't want to write that letter. I got it out. I didn't want to make that phone call. I did it. I didn't put it to the bottom of my entry again. Job well done. It can be as simple as, last week when my kid was crying, I sort of lost it. I listened to myself. I know I didn't want to repeat that mistake again. And today I handle it like this in a much more loving self care way, but still having clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries. And so we can acknowledge ourselves and celebrate those victories. And that helps to turn things around as well. And if we love to journal, we can always, acknowledge a few things in our journal at the end of our day or whenever we write in it, and how we chose to celebrate that success or how we're going to celebrate that success this week.
yeah, that's really good too. Because I think a lot of women feel it's like the things that we accomplish or whatever is insignificant and
Yeah,
sometimes even goes unnoticed in our own minds. Like,
yeah,
I, it takes a second to stop and think, to really, this is why I think gratitude is so important, but to stop and actually consider where I've come, where I was at 5 years ago, where I'm at today, my mindset, how it's changed. I read something the other day that said, look at where you're at today and realize that a lot of what's happening is what you prayed for 5 years ago. And
yeah,
it's just like we're not enough, or in our minds, we feel like we're not enough. So then we're constantly chasing this goal, and if we don't stop to see that we're actually making progress, it feels like we're never enough. It's a detrimental thing in our own lives, but I think in our culture too. Are you seeing trends in culture that's obviously shifting and the demands that's being put on, well, obviously that they feel under pressure with these things? Are
yeah.
you seeing this trend shift?
It feels like women are under a lot of pressure. I mean, I felt under a lot of pressure as a young attorney, but it feels deeper. I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels really deeper. If you have that job and you have the kids or whatever else. Then when I was growing up, and I thought it was really pretty, a lot then, but it just feels like that the energy on the planet, I call it like separation energies, and let's find out all the differences instead of the similarities that bring us together. And I think that makes it really, really hard. And it feels like it's harder to get that base of people there to support you, which is like why I love being a part of the Colorado Women's Bar Association. We have committee meetings, we have this or that. And there's lots of things that bring us together so we can chat with other people and have that sense of bonding. I think it's really important for women because of that to maybe find a mastermind group or a group online or a community group where you at least get together once a month or maybe twice a month, and you're supporting each other, you're listening to each other, so that we're so much better together. We can take steps forward so much better together, and we don't feel alone. And I feel that that's really, really critical and important. And I do facilitate like these kind of transformational healing classes once a week online and in person, where I really feel that. I feel that as people come together as a community, I call it like-minded souls, when they want to move forward and they want to be drop that fear and that doubt and that disbelief and engage in more self-love and self-care. It's so much easier if we're stepping in together. It just changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. And you're tapping on some things here that's been deeply on my heart as of recently, because I feel like in life as a woman, well, as anybody, as a human being, you cross paths with someone, you get close with that person, and life has you kind of walking and striding along with that person for an extended period of time. And then life takes you different directions, and it
Right.
can feel very lonely. I feel like when you've had that kind of friendship and you've been with someone on a very regular basis, and then life kind of just takes you apart. And then I think so many times we can start to feel like alone or like we don't have friends. And even finding friends, like you can have friends that have been from way back, but it doesn't always mean that your growth is on the same level. So
Right.
sometimes embracing change that, hey, you know what? God has taken this person this way and he's taken me this way. And I'm embracing that change. And I still love this person, obviously. Like there's nothing bad that's happened, but we're not aligned in this season of life,
Yeah.
and or people that maybe you've grown or maybe they've outgrown you or however that looks. But just finding like-minded people and then being able to continue to find that in women.
Yeah.
So I think that these types of groups, what you're speaking about, is so vital to the human existence. Really, it's not just women. Men need their men's groups, women need their women's groups. But being able to find that camaraderie and that friendship and that support and that empowering spirit that kind of moves us along. It's
Yeah.
hearing you say that just really puts confirmation in my own heart about some things that I've been even wanting to do and to start and to create, because I feel like when I talk to my friends, this is something that they struggle with as well. So
And can I give a different perspective on that as well? I
yeah,
think it's
yeah, for sure.
important with the way today's world is that we don't necessarily try to find something in everybody that's going to connect with us. Maybe we just want to take a pottery class and we just bond with the people that are doing pottery. In Colorado, there's all sorts of hiking groups. There's like a women's over 40 hiking group and stuff like that. So just there's all sorts of things. And I'm a member of a yoga school. I really love my yoga community. I love practicing there. I don't really see these people outside of yoga, but there's these little conversations, before class, after class, and they just sort of create that bonding thing. And we share stuff, there's more women doing yoga than men, and of course they're welcome, but it's just they don't realize how hard it is. But what I'm saying is that we don't need to go, I need somebody who's going to fill all the spaces. We're setting ourselves up for failure. Maybe we just pick something that we really love to do. And if we have young kids, maybe it's a women's hiking group with the kids, and our partners, if we have partners or not. So there's things that we can engage in that gives us that sense of community. And we're doing something that we love to do, but we're not looking at it to fill every part of our lives. I think that could be a really unrealistic expectation that's going to cause more damage than help.
But don't you believe though that if you're creating like these different like compartments of life, right? So you have these hobbies. If you're a mom of like toddlers, obviously you're going to connect with other moms of toddlers. I like to work out, so I have my friends at the gym that's, we hang out, we work out together, whatever. But don't you think that creating these types of groups, even though like what you're saying is so true. You can't go in like expecting, hey, we're going to be best friends. But that's, don't you believe that these types of groups is where organic friendships and support start?
Yeah, I'm saying they're awesome. They're fantastic. I love them all that I'm a part of. It's just I think it's a mistake for us in any place in our like personal love relations to expect to get that from anybody. I think we need to source that self-love and self-care within ourselves, fill our own cup up with love and have the overflow be sharing with the other person, whether it's a friend or a partner, so that we're not looking to be filled up by anybody else and feeling depleted if they don't quote meet all our needs, because actually we can meet all of our self-love and self-care needs ourselves, fill ourselves up and overflowing with love, and then we're not looking for that in our lives in a needy kind of place. We're coming as companions, walking together as equals as much as possible. And that doesn't mean we don't have good and bad days. Yes, we do. And sometimes we need the friends' help more than others. I'm not talking about a perfect here. I'm just sort of throwing out some ideas. And if they, help you or your audience, I know they've helped me.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I will say this too. Like there is value sometimes in the lonely times. Like I have found immense value in those times where, maybe I've disaligned with certain people and I've been alone. And I don't know how you feel about God, but when I even read through scripture of like when he takes people alone to really do a lot of self work inside of them. So there's places to embrace, I think, with both. But but I do think that sometimes as human beings, like that sense of community, whether it's on a more surface level or whether it's on a way deeper level, um, it's all important. It's all areas that we need in our lives. But I do
Yeah,
hear what you're saying too. Like you can't go into something thinking this person's going to be the one be all of all my needs, because that's just unrealistic expectations
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying because when I got divorced, I've been married and divorced twice. Um, the first time I just wanted so badly to be in a relationship, and I really didn't have much worthiness. I felt really crappy about myself, and I was in a bunch of relationships that were not supportive, not loving, because I my self-worth was like in the tank. And I just finally got it that I needed to not date for a while. So I didn't date for 6 months. I was living in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, and I had this old house built in 1925, and I've literally spent my time fixing it up. And my son was very young then. He was about 5, and that was my life for a while. Like I knew that I needed to leave that kind of market, and I mean, there was a lot of love and God or spirit or however you want to talk about it. Might talk more um, a little bit abstractly, but it's the same thing. It's about love. It's about allowing that love come through us. I really needed to take that time so I would stop repeating those patterns and programs in relationships that were not working. And the only way I could do that was to take a break and to really work on myself. And my therapy was like helping to fix up this really old home that I love. So I agree with you 110%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think after relationships, sometimes it's so important to take time to process everything that you've just been through, and that, you know, being able to self analyze and say, these are things that I've, again, going back to what you were saying earlier about these are mistakes that I've made. How can I handle these differently in the future?
Right.
It's so important. I do think that we live in a culture that it's so busy that we don't take a lot of time for ourselves to really meditate and process what's happening, because life is coming fast. It's there. I agree. There's an energy in the air where life is like full speed ahead, and that
Right.
it's kind of what we're being taught to do too. And especially here in America, are you in the States now?
Yeah, I'm in the States. I live in Colorado, about 12 minutes down the road from Boulder, Colorado, about 40 minutes northwest of Denver, in a little town called Niwot. So there is some land around me. I see the mountains wherever I go. There's some nice trails to walk on. And I guess what I was going to do to share with your audience, if you don't feel that you can sit still in meditation, there's a walking meditation. Don't go out for a power walk. Just go out and really enjoy the beauty of Mother Nature. Breathe her in. Get away from your no computers, no cell phones. Let all that stuff go and really appreciate the beauty around you. And, yes, it's great to sit there like you're talking about, breathe, let go. But as a first step, if that feels like too much and you're not, you're not going to give it that go out in Mother Nature. She's just gorgeous. And, love the trees and love the beauty around you and allow yourself to go slow and breathe. And even breathing in the love and letting go of anything that's not serving, like a deep breath through the mouth is really helpful in those moments as well.
Yeah, that's great advice as well, because I know when people first start meditating, when I first started meditating, it was extremely hard. And again, being an overthinker, I'm like, I don't know if I'm even doing this thing right. Um, but there's not really, it's not really a right or wrong way to do it. Uh,
Right.
but when you have, I think I have a lot of racing thoughts. Like when I sit still, constantly thoughts are like circling in my mind. And I think some of that's normal as just human beings experience that. But I think mine's excessive. um, so that's very helpful. And I wish someone would have told me that when I first started meditating, because I didn't know
Yeah.
to do that. I just thought I have to sit and focus on my breath. And try to dismiss the thoughts that are entering in my mind, which is all vital
Yeah.
stuff. But um, so tell me a little bit about you. You've worked with different women. You've kind of seen them through this process. What's some of the success stories that you've experienced?
Well, I guess, for most of them, they get to a place where they start practicing some very simple self-care, self-love techniques. Um, it doesn't have to be really big to make a big difference. It could just be, I need a 15-minute break. I'm going to take a hot bath with some Epsom salt and some lavender essential oil. Or it's going to be, I'm going to work out a couple of times a week. It can be like I'm come home from work before I really deal with the family stuff. I'm going to take a quick hot shower, wash off my day, put on different clothes. It could be like I like to sit and read a book. I like to be in my garden. They engage in some self-care, self-help where they're really beginning to see that, oh my God, the world doesn't fall down if I'm gone for 15 or 20 minutes or an hour. Life does go on. My kids, the world is okay. And I think that's a really amazing place to have that self-realization. And so that's one thing I see frequently. And I also see with women that sometimes we're really good in one area, but not the other. Like, um, I've seen women where like they're a doormat and a people pleaser at work, and then they come home with their teenagers and they're more like, really authoritarian and controlling, and they really, because they're making up for things, and just to be able to see, oh wow, I really need to, because I'm this way at work, saying yes, yes, yes to everyone, and I'm depleted. I'm coming home and doing the opposite with my teenagers, and they start practicing a different way. It might be something as simple as I had a client who her teenagers just wanted a dog. And she was like, no, it's too much work, blah, blah, blah. And they got the dog. It was like the best thing that ever happened. Sometimes it's just little things. And the teenagers took charge of it because they knew that their mom was not going to let them keep the dog if they didn't, step up. So sometimes it's just really little steps that we take that can make such a huge difference in our lives. And some of it is just practicing and giving ourselves permission to feel worthy about stuff. I'm worthy of self love. I'm worthy of self care. And I'm going to practice this and be aware of that. So, yeah, what I do is I see women having light bulb moments and then beginning just really small steps of practicing because those little small steps can be huge. They just feel different on the inside. And then from there, they can decide, where to from here. And I find that so rewarding because when they have that light bulb moment, they're going, oh my God. But it doesn't have to be some huge thing. It can just be these little things we do for ourselves that change everything.
Do you ever find that some of the women that you work with, they're dealing with maybe past traumas or childhood traumas or things that they have to overcome in the sense of trauma before they can really optimize their life?
Yeah, and I'm not a counselor. So counselors, they go back and they deal with the trauma. And I'm not always sure that it's helpful to relive traumas over and over again. But as a coach, if they bring it up, we're going to acknowledge that that's there and that it might take some time to turn that ship around. If someone has grown up with a narcissistic mother or father, a lot of those women feel like they're not entitled to everything because they were never ever validated. And so it's going to take some time. Okay, we know that that's there. How can we begin to validate? How can you begin to validate yourself in your life, one little small step at a time, and you can begin to let that go and focus more on how we're validating and supporting ourselves and less on that voice in our head that's our parent that was a narcissist. So, of course, a lot of us have trauma, some bigger or smaller. Um, and then those are patterns and programs that we can acknowledge and recognize. And when we look those patterns and programs in the face, a lot of the power begins to go away because we were sort of avoiding and denying that stuff. And so, yes, I do, but it's always as a coach in what's going on right here, right now, how it's manifesting and how it can be different in the future. And I find that unless it's someone's really, really troubled, for most women that I deal with, there's very few I refer, you need to see a counselor. They're ready to handle it in that way. They find it more empowering.
Yeah, I don't know this for fact, but I have considered this a lot, and I've seen this in my own life as well too. Which that's really the perception that we have is how it's affected us in life. But I think that there are things that we have to work out before we can optimize or get to that area of optimization. And I think it's different. It's different for every person. Trauma is different for every person. And it's also different how we handle that trauma and how much that's affected us and how much the ability that we have to get over it. However, there there are things I think that sometimes getting to the bottom of those things like does release a certain permission to then optimize in these areas and be your best. But I was curious, with you working with women, if you see that as on a regular or even not so regular basis, but have you experienced that before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as coaches, we're trained to see and recognize that because it's important as coaches that we don't cross over that line. We're not trained for that. And
Mm-hmm.
so if someone's bringing us something where they really need to go and talk about the past and they're not ready to step into this new mode, then, my ethical duty and obligation and responsibility is to refer them to a counselor or giving them an idea of what kind of counselor they might want to look to work with. Absolutely. And I didn't mean to negate counseling. I've gone through counseling myself, and it was some were really, really great and some were not so great, like any coach that you might find. But I am really grateful for the ones that did help me, to move beyond feeling unworthy of love or and unworthy of self-care. And yeah, so I'm not negating the counseling, and
Yeah.
I think as coaches we really need to be aware of that and refer and say no to coaching when it's not appropriate in the moment.
Mhm. How much do you think mindset plays into what you're doing with the ladies that you work with? And then even still, maybe if someone needs to backtrack and go into some type of counseling or therapy, how much do you think mindset plays a role?
It plays a big role because if you're if you and we can help with that as coaches or counselors or whatever we're coming from, but if we've been trained, which I think that's what I learned, or maybe it's just subconsciously just sort of soaked in from being in the part of the human race that I needed to focus on all the negative stuff. I think human beings have a tendency to do that. And what I did wrong, what was horrible, instead of focusing on all the amazing things that have happened in my life, if we do help to, it's important to feel our feelings because feeling is healing and we can allow them to move through them, let them go, and replace them with, maybe compassion and self-love, self-care, courage, joy, whatever kind of quality we're looking for. So I'm not saying don't feel your feelings, but at the same time, it's important to really know what I'm aligning to, what I'm choosing to move forward positively, in what area of the life. And so, if I'm choosing to be a more compassionate, loving, and self-caring person, um, then that'll always be my focus, even as I look at the bits of me that are not that. And I'm helping people to practice not beating themselves up for that, but learning from mistakes as an opportunity to learn and grow. And also another thing I like to share is practice makes permanent. The more we practice these new ways of being, the more they're going to happen. There's no such thing as little magic fairy dust and all of a sudden we're different. We don't want to have those expectations or put that kind of pressure on ourselves. We have to practice and begin to really enjoy that practicing and acknowledge ourselves for that practicing. So it's kind of an ongoing work in progress.
Mm. It's a transformational journey. That's
It's
the
a transformational journey.
that's the journey. Um, so that is, I mean, that's awesome that you're helping so many women overcome these hurdles in life and find validation because that's huge as well. Especially in a world where sometimes we don't feel validated and we're so busy working for everybody else that we don't take the time. So I think that these are all so important in the lives of women because if we're not optimizing ourselves and our mental health and our ability to go above and beyond to do all of these things, especially if we're already doing them. If you're already working full time and you're a full time mom and you're a full time wife and you're doing all these things, if you are not taking care of yourself, how can you take care of everybody else? You're
You can't.
you're failing somewhere, or you're
Yeah.
I wouldn't say failing, but you're neglecting some area.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's so important. So do you work with people all over, or I know you have your groups there in Colorado. Do you take people online? Do you
Yeah, it's just COVID. Most of my clients are online. You can coach just as easily that way. That's I find it's really easy for them and easy for me. So I find that at this point, especially since all the stuff where everything went online, that's where most of my clients are comfortable. They're in their nice, comfy space in their own home. I'm here, and so I have clients that are in the U.S. and Canada and Australia. So I have some family over there, and it really doesn't matter where you live as long as you can speak English because that's my only language. Um, Although there are these new earbuds I saw for really cheap where they translate all the different languages, but they don't translate it how it comes out of your mouth. So unless they know English too. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. Just a side note.
technology is moving so fast,
Yes.
so fast these days. Um, so tell my audience like where they can find you if they wanted to connect with your coaching, if they want to learn more about you in general, how would they go about doing that? Where would they find you?
Well, you can go to my website, which is Jewel Consultancy, Jewel, like the diamond, consultancy.com. My name is right out here, Arlene Cohen Miller. If you put it on the internet, it'll come up LinkedIn and all the different places that you can look for me. And you can also text me if you're in the US or Canada at 720-936-2634. Just use Amber's name so I'll know where you found me.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to have a little chat with you. And yep, happy to have a little chat with you. We can either text or talk. Um, Happy to meet people from all my podcast audiences. I find it really amazing.
Mhm. Do you work one on one with people or do you do more group coaching?
Right now, I'm doing more one-on-one. It feels I can feel the energy of it's going to go to group coaching more. And I do that in a different venue, more of the mentoring stuff. But it feels like it is going to go to group coaching. I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to all pan out. But right now, I'm mostly one-on-one. I have in the past coached like business women who are in like small business groups, like maybe two or three owners coming together, especially for nonprofits of where they want to go from here. So I'm always open to group coaching if people are interested. I can do it. It's really, but it hasn't become like a big thing in my life yet. It's gone away and it feels like it's coming back. I don't know if I'm being, but anyway, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's just being intuitive to what people need. Sometimes it's
Right.
impossible to know what people need until you get in there and start actually doing the coaching. And then you're like, oh, we can. And sometimes I've been in both coaching one on one and group coaching, and there's so much value in both. I feel like,
Yes.
with group coaching, sometimes it's a community and you get to know other people in the program, and sometimes you form relationships and you never know, they could be deep relationships, they could be only while you're in that coaching program, but having that encouragement and empowerment as you're walking through a coaching program is also very important. So
Yeah.
I think there's validity in both. And I'm sure, just as you teach, that everything is really found inside of us, and sometimes just being intuitive to what that looks like. Um,
Right.
just going with the process.
Yeah. And I would leave that with your audience. Lots of times we have this intuition, these feelings, and we just dismiss them instead of like this really strong feeling that I mean it can even be I even sort of tell my people that I'm mentoring, use it at the grocery store to make a list of all the things you're going. If you go to pick up like an orange, it's like that doesn't feel right this week. I'm just being simple, that I really want bananas, go with the bananas. Learn to develop your intuition, your inner knowing within. It's like how you connect with God, how you connect with source, what my body really needs on a simple level. And if you have those intuitions, you have those feelings, give it a go, because life can be much more rich and deeper. I don't know if I'm using the right words. Is that if we listen to that stuff and it is if we blow it off.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I think that, with I'm sure you've heard this, but with entrepreneurship, they say like you need to go with speed, like do things with speed, do things quickly. And sometimes when I first learned of that tactic, I was like, oh my gosh, this is way overwhelming to me because I doubted myself a lot. And as I'm journeying through that and trying to become better at not doubting myself and understanding that everything is found in there, that I am like God does source those things through you, through mind, body, spirit. And I do think that being intuitive and really going with those decisions, sometimes there's a lot of there's a lot of emphasis in that. You know,
Yeah.
you've heard of people saying just sit down and write, just take a topic and just write about it. And then you go back and read it and you're like, I didn't even know where that came from. It came from you.
Right.
You know, it's it's amazing how the mind works. And I'm constantly intrigued by the
Yeah.
mind, by mindset, by the way that we can really regenerate our mindsets in so many ways and just become a whole new person. The potential's there in every single person. So it's, that's why I love people that are doing what you're doing and shifting worldview, shifting mindset, shifting the way that we look at ourselves, shifting the way that where we're looking for validation for in different
Yeah.
people or in and of ourselves. So I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful. So if you had kind of a big, huge takeaway that you wanted to leave my audience with, what would that be?
Well, this was just coming to me as you were sharing that there's no greater power than the power of love. The being powerfully loving is going to waylay fear anytime. Just choose to be powerfully loving with yourself, with the people that you love in your life. Allow that love to flow through you onto your paper with your journaling. Allow it to flow through you when you go to the grocery store. Allow it to flow through you when you make decisions in life. The worst case scenario is you make a step forward and you're being supported, but it doesn't feel quite right. And you just decide to turn a little bit and change the next step you're taking. You're not taking a 5-year plan step. You're taking one step forward. See how it feels from your heart, and then take another. And have fun with it.
Mm, that's so good. And if you're an overthinker like me, that's really hard to do. But it's there is so much value in that, just being able to release these things and be able to move in freedom. Really, it's like you're moving in freedom. So
Yeah,
I really love everything that you're doing, what you're teaching, even your own journey and your own process of where you came from being an attorney, which requires a whole different way of thinking, to now.
lots of mad stuff.
But you know what? Seeing both sides of it, now you can speak to that. So I think
Yeah,
that you hold a lot of wisdom there, and you're leading a lot of ladies into their own freedom. So
yeah.
I love what you're doing. Um, I appreciate having you here today, Arlene. Is there any other thoughts or ideas that you have that you want to share with us?
One more thing.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
like me, because I used to be like such a head person all the time, and so if you know that you can be really heady and stuff like that, it doesn't mean you don't have a beautiful heart. And just if you focus on that beautiful heart and give yourself a chance with it, and you can just go, yeah, I hear all y'all the blah 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 blah. Thank you very much. I'm just gonna give it a go right here and see what the heart feels, and know that we can do that, because I was so heady when I was an attorney, and just going through the coaching and the mentoring and the meditation stuff, training began to switch that around for me. And so if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I was a total, head person. So don't give up on yourself. Keep on choosing the love.
You've given me lots of hope here today. So, but life is a journey, and that's really the beauty in it all, is that we get the
Yeah,
opportunity to make the choices to experience it in its fullest, and
yeah,
and shift those mindsets to really be grateful and see how far you came, because it's so
yeah,
important to
yeah.
pat yourself on the back ever so often. Thank you so much, Arlene. It's been nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Through the Trauma podcast. If you have found value in this episode or believe in the mission behind what we are doing, Please subscribe so that you never miss any future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our transformation project at transformationthroughtraumaproject.com, where we help inspirational stories get heard on a larger scale through multiple platforms. If you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.